Hi friends, welcome to the Patreon. I hope you're all very well. I'm excited today to talk to you about The Stylist, but mostly I'm going to be talking to you about the character of Claire. I just watched this film and I thought it was very interesting, the portrayal of the protagonist, the anti-protagonist in this film. Very interesting and very different to what I expected. So I'm going to dive into that. First, just a forewarning, there aren't major spoilers, but I do spoil something like one aspect that you can tell from the poster. You can tell if you've watched the short film or you've seen the trailer or you know anything about the film. It's just like the main method she uses. If you don't want that spoiled, I totally understand. But I'm going to be talking more about her character and her background than any plot points in the film. But I will mention the main thing. But you find that out in the first minute. So, I mean, it's totally up to you if you want to go on blind and you don't know anything about The Stylist already. That's 2 thumbs up. But I'm going to go into spoilers now. So again, thanks for being here and let's jump in. The Stylist is an independent horror film based on the short film of the same name. The blurb for the feature as well as the short film presented as a story about a lonely hairstylist who is obsessed with her clients. But from my perspective, the film is about a hairstylist who is dealing with extreme mental illness and how her emotional intelligence has suffered, leaving her to connect to others in unhealthy ways and turn to scalping her patients. That's the minor spoiler, by the way. The short film is more of a nod to escapism, with Claire being more confident and assertive. The Stylist feature, on the other hand, is a slice of life of a serial killer who suffers from complex anxiety. And for this reason, the film was extremely hard for me to watch as someone who deals with anxiety and then also body image stuff, and I had no idea. I was completely surprised how deep this was going to go into the main character's psyche and what it really was about, especially because of how it presented in the short film. Her anxiety is obviously connected to her childhood trauma, which I mean can relate, and I'm sure a lot of us can, and I didn't realize from the short film just how much it would entirely focus on Claire's psyche and how it translates into her need to scalp her clients. From the short film, I assumed it would focus on the gore and her obsession, but it really becomes about this never-ending battle that is in her mind, this cycle that will not end. But let's talk about Claire, because I'm dying to. The interesting thing in The Stylist is, although we learn about Claire's overwhelming anxiety, fear, and social isolation, we never learn about Claire herself and her actual past. We have subtle hints, but never any idea of where she came from, leading the viewer to assume some kind of childhood abandonment has resulted in her unusual hobby. She also plays the strange paradox where we follow a literal serial killer around as a first person, watching them struggle and feeling pity, yet knowing what they're doing is completely unjustified. Of course, the film that pops into my head is Maniac, particularly the remake with Elijah Wood from 2012. It's a comparable film in terms of particularly the scalping, but also following along the killer. Although in this film he's presented in a terrifying light and his antisocial behavior is very much surface level. But the strange thing about Claire is it's clear she is barely holding it together emotionally and mentally, but yet she's still able to not only have a successful career as a stylist, but get away with murders at the same time. I mean, it's not easy to get away with murder, but Claire makes it look like a walk in the park, and there is rarely any moments where the tension is focused on someone finding out what she's doing. And we are led to believe that she kills and has killed before in her hairdressing salon where people make appointments. Obviously, there's a trace of that, and then these people start going missing. There's a connection here. People don't look up the last appointment, who she was talking to. It seems like they would all trace this back to her, and the fact that she can get away with it so easily is pretty insane. It's obviously not the point of the film. This is not one of those serial killer films where we follow around the killer and, the police who are on their trail. at all. You kind of have to kiss that thought goodbye and follow through her eyes. But it's just very interesting that someone who is so unstable in every other aspect somehow is the perfect killer, can clean up a crime like no one else. Dexter, who? She's also presented as meek, quiet, and submissive, much like her dog Pepper, who is so cute. Yet she's able to go through with grisly murders and commit obsessive crimes. And I'm not saying that this is impossible. She's just a fascinating, complex character. And her level of anxiety is, in fact, what a lot of horror lovers could probably relate to. And perhaps that's why they left her history so open, so others could hold a mirror and see themselves. Hopefully not all of themselves, but the anxiety. I think a lot of people who are drawn to escapism through film, particularly horror film, have a lot of anxieties, and that's their way of coping. Totally normal, totally natural. It's just what we do. So I think that that's probably why they left the character so open, so we could find a part that we could empathize with her character and hopefully fill in the blanks ourselves. Another aspect that is interesting in the film is the idea of woman on woman crime. I spoke about Maniac earlier, and that is usually the MO for these types of stories. Of course, we have the stalker type, but the brutal serial killer murders are usually saved for group cults or killers, or, of course, perverted men. Rarely do we see women seeking out other women as their victims time and time again, especially the seeking and planning stages. The film also plays heavily on the idea that everyone wants what they can't have. They make this very clear in the short film as well. But the complexities of Claire's character tells a different story. One of seeking family, friendship, and relating to other people. Wanting to fit into society, but only being able to touch the surface. Or in her case, to dress up, complete with a custom wig. Claire doesn't want what she can't have. This is not the grass is greener syndrome. She's mourning for the reality that she isn't someone else. I wanted to focus on Claire in this video because although the film was slow in parts, I felt like Claire's character was so interesting and so different to anything else I'd seen lately. To complete this video, I will give you my scores on the film, which I'm kind of sad about. I really wanted to love this film, and although I thought Claire was really interesting, I felt the end was so predictable. I knew what was happening that entire time. Yeah, I was kind of bothered by that because everything else until then, or I guess the scene before then as well, I loved, but I was wondering how they were going to wrap it up and how to, you know, make this story come full circle, and I felt like it got a little bit lost there. So I went from, you know, being a 7 to a 6 really fast, so my personal score, unfortunately, is a 6. I did really enjoy the other parts, and I was very impressed with it. It was completely unlike what I had imagined from the short film, so I thought that was really cool. Usually it feels like they put a lot of filler in short stories to like bump them up to features, especially when the short story is kind of pitched as a feature, you know? But in this way, I felt like it was opposite. You didn't get any of that storyline from the short that were in the feature or vice versa. It was like completely different, separate aspects of the character and of the situation. They really drew a lot of inspiration from the short, but turned it into its own monster, which I think is perfect. Originality, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. Of course, it gels with other stuff, but the 5, where it's like in the middle, I think it's because of the, you know, her character. It was just pretty interesting, and interesting the way that she seeked out her victims. And for scare, I'm going to give it a 3. I didn't think it was very intense at all. It was just, you know, gore and blood. Just the normal things. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being part of my Patreon. I really want to hear what you thought of The Stylist if you've seen it. I know it's not screening in most areas yet. It's on Arrow, which is in North America. Luckily, I got a screener beforehand. But if you do get to watch it, let me know what you think down below. And if you haven't seen it yet, hopefully this made you interested in the different aspects that I found in it. I don't think I really spoiled anything to do with the plot. You would have no idea what the film is about. So definitely check it out. I do recommend it, and I hope you guys like it as well. Again, thank you so much for supporting me. It really means a lot, and it keeps my channel afloat. I love the Patreon, and it's the reason I still have a channel today, so you're to thank for that. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, guys.